Welcome to the Traveling Professors. I'm Professor Bob.
And I'm Professor Sheri.
And together we are
the Traveling Professors.
Today we're going to take a walk around the Temple of Luxor. Now, this is our first day, Sheri and I's first day in Luxor. We flew in this morning, settled in our hotel. Now we're going to do what we do every time we're on a trip in a new place. We go out of the hotel and just walk. And our intention today is simply to walk around the outside of the Temple of Luxor. Later, I will go back and do a tour of the inside of it. So we're going to check out what's going on around Temple of Luxor. An artistic view of the Temple of Luxor. Now, there's been a temple on this site since 2000 BCE. The temple that is illustrated here was originally built, part of it was built by Amenhotep III. It's also referred to as Amenephis III. Then there were additions that were added on by Ramses II, King Tut. The Romans did some work. Alexander put some things in there. This is what it looked like completed. Then here we have an aerial view of the ruin. You can see they're pretty extensive. This area is 4 acres. It's 583 feet long, 181 feet wide, at its widest. And it was first excavated in 1884. We're just going around the outside of it, and then later I'll go on the inside. Then here is a map which shows a couple of things. One is you see where Luxor is, where the Temple of Luxor is, and then you see further up is the Temple of Karnak. Now you will hear this described in history books as the Temple of Luxor Karnak. There are two separate temples, but they were in ancient times connected by a very long 2.5-kilometer avenue of sphinxes, which the Egyptian government is in the process of restoring. And one of the things that's going to happen on our trip is we thought we could just walk around the temple and go back to the hotel. That wasn't possible because of all sorts of construction. We had to go a significant distance further up in order to find a bridge that went over the Avenue of Sphinxes. In this chart, you see a more complete version, and you see how small the Temple of Luxor is, and then you see the Avenue of the Sphinxes, and then you see the gigantic Temple of Karnak. If you go to Luxor and you're going to see both the temple and the Sound and Light show, go to the temple first and see it, so when the Sound and Light show takes place, you can make more sense out of it. A moment of truth. It's time to start walking towards the Temple of Luxor. Well, when we first picked this site, we thought it was a little bit closer than it turned out to be, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And being one of the luxury hotels in the city, you could walk out of the hotel at any given time, and there'd be taxis and carriages and all sorts of other stuff for transportation, which is great if you're going to use transportation. But when you're walking, that means that everybody who is giving you a service of transportation stops, slows down, and asks, "Do you need a ride?" And so it was a little annoying, so to speak. But as you see here, the street is not that crowded with people. So we went to one of the interchanges. There's actually a police station on the corner. Then we get near the harbor area, should say the marina area, and on one side is the beautiful Palace Hotel, which is a very, very nice hotel. And the other side, you see where all of the barges and the ships that go down to Aswan and come back and do tours. And so it's very nice. As you can see, it's kind of late afternoon at this particular point. We're very lucky in the fact that the sun is at our back, so we'll get very good pictures going down the side of the temple. The direction we're going, which is down the side of the temple with the river on our left, is we're really walking from the back of the temple towards the front of the temple. So this particular section has various chapels. One of them was built by Alexander the Great. There's some with the Romans in there. There's a chapel or a little temple section to Amun. There's what's called a birthing site as well that is within this area off to my right. Then as you move a little further up, you start seeing big tall columns, and that is what is known as the hypostyle hall, and it has all of these papyrus flowers with their buds. As you move a little further, then you come to the transition between the hypostyle hall and what is known as the sun court of Amenhotep III, and you can see it opens up, becomes very, very, very wide. This is one of the widest parts of the temple, and of course, remember, all of these columns would have been painted. They wouldn't have been like this in ancient times. They definitely would have been painted. After leaving the sun court of Amenhotep III, we come to the big section that's in the front, and you can see a row of columns. That is the processional colonnade of Amenhotep III. You see the obelisk in the middle. You see the two pylons on either side of it, and then you see a mosque, and that mosque has been there since 640 AD. It is Abu Haga. And we'll go by it on the other side and see a little closer view of it. And here we are looking down the direction that we are heading, and I assumed that we could get in front of the pylon and then go across. No, that's all blocked off. So we continue up. Here's a little side shot. You can see the pylons off to the left. You can see the court of Ramses II with the mosque minaret in the background. Then we come to the front of the temple. You see one of what used to be two obelisks. This is the 82-foot obelisk of Ramses II. There was a smaller one that is now in Paris. There's a look back towards the temple that we have gone by, of course, trying to keep the sun out so it doesn't. And then here we finally come to the front where you can see the two pylons. I believe they record the Battle of Kadesh on the front of them. And then there are statues of Ramses II that you will see when I go back to this at another time. So we've gone down one side of the temple. Now all we have to do is simply find a crossing point and go down the other side. And now our adventure really begins. You know, I had a better city map than the one I'm showing you here, but it showed that I should be able to go to the end of the Luxor temple complex and just take a bridge and walk right across to the other side. So we headed down. We came to the street, which you see here. We saw an asphalt crew working, and we get to the end of the street, and you can look back down towards the temple, and then you can see the Avenue of the Sphinxes, and I was just looking the other direction towards the Temple of Karnak, which is out of sight. You can't actually see it. Actually what you see there is a Coptic Christian church, but there's no bridge. You can't cross here. So we continued down the asphalt road and ultimately came to the Cathedral of the Blessed Virgin Mary in Luxor, which was built in 1909. Now it is Christmas Day for the Coptic Christians in Egypt. We flew in on Christmas Eve. And so here is the church. They have significant security in front of this because ISIS has selected the Coptics as targets on several occasions. So they're not taking any chances. So we had to go through security to get into the complex. And the Coptic Christians, which are about 20% of the Egyptian population, are considered Orthodox Christians. They're called, or actually the sign says Orthodox Coptic Cathedral of the Blessed Virgin Mary. So we went into the church, said some prayers, because we're Orthodox, and went outside. There's a nice map, and it shows the route that the Coptics believe that the Holy Family took traveling through Egypt while they were waiting for King Herod to die. Famous messengers, the angels came and told Mary and Joseph that they needed to flee to Egypt until Herod was done. And so the Coptics have marked different places in Egypt where they believe that they stayed, and Luxor happens to be one of them. The one that most people see is the one in Cairo, and we had been to that one as well. When we finished inside the church and talked to some of the people out in the courtyard, you'll see this beautiful creche, and it is really large. It's probably 25 feet in length, and it's quite old, and they allowed us to take pictures of it. So they had the manger, and they had Bethlehem, and they had some other places. So once we finished there, of course, the sun is now beginning to go down. We need to turn ourselves around. So we continued further down to the next major thoroughfare, which is another couple of blocks, and there we found our bridge. Here's a view from our bridge as we cross over, looking back towards the Temple of Karnak, which you can't see. Those two towers that you see there, that's the Coptic church. So we actually walked a little further than 2 blocks in order to find this bridge. And you'll see all of the little stands where the sphinxes will be located. But here is a close-up, and this is an actual one. This is not a man-made one in modern times that they're putting in. So that's one of the originals. And then we get to the other side, and we start walking back towards the hotel. Finally, we get to a spot. Here's the back side of the Orthodox Church, the Coptic Orthodox Church. And you can see the Avenue of Sphinxes. Once again, as we get, the light is nice here. And then we reach another church. And this one happens to be the Roman Catholic Church of Luxor. And we didn't take a picture of it, but there is a van in front of this blaring loud music. Now, the Catholic Church does not use the same calendar. Catholic Church Christmas would be December the 25th. People that we talked to said that it was celebratory music, but there were a lot of people. There were no people dancing, and it appeared more of an annoyance to the Catholics than it did a celebration. It was gone after this day was over with. And then just before we get to the temple again, here's the main mosque in Luxor with its big minaret. Finally, we're back at the Temple of Luxor. So here's a view through the fence, which is pretty extensive. They have this area very well protected. And then sticking the camera through the fence, we get a nice shot of the two pylons with the obelisk and the statues of Ramses II. And then as we go past the pylon, we come to the mosque. This is the mosque of Abu Haga. Now, that was built in 640 AD, and it's been updated periodically, but that is actually built over the top of an old Roman church, which was built in 395 AD. And there may be an even older church than that, because in front of the pylons that you'll see when I take the inside tour, there's a church to St. Thecla that is right on the corner. So one of the things that we have is this site here at Luxor has been the site of continuous religious worship for over 3,400 years. The old religion, the Christian religion, and the Muslim religion. So it makes for an interesting mixture. Now we're just walking down the opposite side of the temple. So here we have the processional colonnade of Amenhotep III from the other side with the setting sun. And then there's a Roman court section that you have, and they also have turned this into a modern courtyard with statues of various famous people in Egyptian history. And you can see in this picture how far away we had to get in order to move back around. And then ultimately we come back to the sun court of Amenhotep III, the outer edge of it, and then once again we get to the back where we have the different chapels. And then before we start moving away, this is the back side. This is the very back of the Temple of Luxor. Looking through this takes you into a shrine to Amun, and then if you just continued walking straight, you'll then ultimately get to the other courts and be able to walk straight out from the other side. Now, of course, once you've walked out and away from the temple and that area where the courtyard was, this is where you have all sorts of taxis. You have McDonald's over there. Notice that next to McDonald's is the Alibaba's cave. And then here you can also get this transportation. This is the old carriages with the horses. And then we simply walked back down the same street we came towards the temple. And this is the setting sun from our balcony in the hotel. So I hope you enjoyed our little walk through Luxor and walking around the Temple of Luxor. Sheri and I hope you enjoyed the tour. Please come by our YouTube channel at Bob Packett on YouTube. It should be History According to Bob, but it comes up as Bob Packett. That's the easiest way to get to it. And please subscribe and leave some comments. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, give a comment, and if you like history, please come by historyaccordingtobob.com website, where I do 6 podcasts a week on different topics in history, and there's all sorts of CDs and other things that you can see. So thank you very much.